right? So just to like, he's very precise. He said this in the beginning of the book of the Sefer, that he's going to be very precise in the language. So he refers to God in many different ways, right? In the Sefer. So for example, so right now in this section, okay, that's not right. So in this section, he's going to say, right, we're gonna start page 112, section 4, right? It says, "V'hine oitziba cheres nimtzos lahem." There's another reason for them. I don't know what for them is. Al pi darkei hamishpat v'hagmul, according to the ways of judgment and reward. So over here, it's the ways of judgment and reward. V'hu ki hine gozer hashoifet ha'elyon, the highest judge. So over here, he refers to Hashem, that whatever he's going to discuss now comes from Hashem as the highest judge. Okay? So, and then he's going to talk about how he helps out some people to achieve shleimus easier, and some people are prevented and need extra work. Okay, that's comes from the highest judge, God as being the highest judge. If you if you flip back to the previous chapter, so he says over there, for example, when he talks about Yisurin, he says, he talks about Hashem as Chesed Ha'elyon, the highest Chesed. When he talks about Gehenna, Hashem is the highest Chesed. When he talks about this is Hashem in the form of the highest judge. And it's every single time. Sometimes it's the wisdom decreed, sometimes the wisdom measured, sometimes the wisdom arranged. Everything is like super precise for each individual case. And now, that's one thing. That's the first thing that jumps off the page as you're reading this. I don't know which one is which and why over here he says like this. The other thing is that, right, we know that the previous chapter he says I'm speaking on the level of general nation, and this chapter is all about the individual. Right? And if you really want to get the full picture, you got to go paragraph by paragraph. What he says over there, what he says over here, what he says over there, what he says over here, because it's like not mirror image, but they're all interconnected. So to get the full kind of layers of this Sefer is just, I don't know. I don't have it. I don't have it right now. So we're just getting some ideas, but it's not the heart. It's not the heart of the issue. Anyway, so let's get whatever we can get. So once again, this parak, which is the third parak of the second gate, talks about the individual providence, hashgacha ha'ishis, right? And so far he told us that each individual, so again, the previous chapter said that the nation has to achieve perfection, or in other words, there has to be a community of the perfected ones, right? There has to be a community of the perfected ones, and no matter what, they're going to be. Who's going to be part of that community? That remains to be seen, but there has to be a community of the perfected ones. Yes. Mm-hmm. Now he's telling us, okay, so how does a person get into the community of the perfected ones? So he said, for every little thing, for every character trait of a person, for every positive, negative trait, all of those things have to be available, and the person has to be tested for each of those traits. So there are many scenarios. A person is put into many scenarios. There are ups and there are downs. Every ups is its own challenge. Every up is its own challenge, and every down is its own challenge, right? Now, but not every person goes through every possible challenge. For some reason, Hashem decides that this person goes through these challenges, this person goes through that challenges, and we don't fully know why, which person gets what challenge. Okay? That was the last thing that we learned. So every person, I want to add something here. So I had a hard time with this. So going back on the general, right? So, not the general, sorry. That's what I'm saying. So the previous paragraph, he told us. So how does Hashem decide who gets what challenge? We don't really know, but we do know that it must depend on the person's root of his neshama. Where, right, since we know that everything starts out from these transcendentals, so we know that each person's formula for his nisayon begins with the root of his neshama, right? Mm-hmm. Good. And so not only that, he's told us that because we know that transcendentals can live in two different states, they can exist in two different states. They can exist in a state of full expression, and they can exist in a state of not full expression. So therefore, a person's nisayon will also depend on these various transcendentals, how they were expressed, right? Like just like in genetics, almost like people have genes. Mm-hmm. Certain genes are dormant, certain genes are expressed. So you might not have to work on your expressed genes; you have to work on your dormant genes, or whatever the case may be, right? So a lot depends on which. In the formation of this neshama, which of the transcendentals took expression and which were more dormant. Okay, right? So far so good. So therefore, a person works on it and he brings out some light onto the ones that were dormant and activates them, and that's his mission in life, right? To activate. Now, okay, right? So far so good. But we also learned in the previous chapter that some people are not going to make it, right? Right? Some people are not going to make it. Right, Hashem gives everybody chances and second chances and third chances and gets everybody to the community of the perfected ones, but at the same time, they're going to be, the community of the perfected ones is going to exist, and then there are going to be people who are just not going to make it to the community of the perfected ones. What does that mean? That means they failed their tests, right? And they did not express those. So what does that mean? Does that mean that Hashem's plan failed? Because I'm saying Hashem had a plan of 100% expression, only 70%.
We don't know that.
What do you mean?
There was 100%.
Or if it's not, then those people never had a chance to express it.
No, it's not those particular people.
Everybody had a chance to achieve.
Everybody had a chance.
But we're saying that, but each individual.
It's up to the people.
Right, but I'm just saying, but potentially everybody could have achieved it.
Yeah.
So that means that those people that did not achieve it,
was
that means
choice.
Right, but they didn't express those things that Hashem wanted to be expressed. If we're understanding that it's not only about you, right? It's not only about you, it's also that your choices and your actions create effect, cause and effect in Shemayim or whatever, and these transcendentals, and they bring out these forces out into the expression. And this person who failed it, it caused more darkness to happen there.
Yeah, but also that's why we have a choice, so you could choose bad.
Right, so Hashem had to give us a choice, right? So there's a freedom of choice. That means these guys chose bad. They're discarded. It's true, but what happens
to their good deeds?
Not to their good deeds, to their area that they were responsible for. It's as if Hashem says, this is your area of transcendentals. This is your area of transcendentals. This is, I don't know if you can divide infinity into these kind of, but let's say, so how does it work then? It means I don't know. That's the question. So, on a simple level, I'm thinking that really what happens is that if person A does not achieve his potential, so I think we have a concept that his properties, quote unquote, his spiritual Yerusha gets transferred to somebody else. So in other words, at the end of the day, I think that 100% of perfection has to be achieved.
I mean, somebody steps on and covers the ground.
Right, right. Like in our Tehillim groups, Everybody has to say the whole book. Somebody skips out, somebody else jumps in and takes care of it. But the mission has to be achieved. Hashem said this is how Olam Haba is going to look like. That's it. It has to be. So, but we also know these guys are not going to make it. But I don't know how the whole cheshbon works. But somehow at the end of the day, it all has to work out 100%, not 60%, not 30%, 100%. Everything has to somehow all reshuffle into 100% achievement. Okay, anyway, so let's get back into this. Okay, v'amnam oid siba acheres nimtzis lehem. So once again, so there's another reason, there's another cause for everything, for these things. Again, I'm not sure what these things are. So Rabbi Kaplan translates, there's not the reason for what happens to an individual in this world, but that's not what it says. It says, Siba acheres nimtzas lohem. There's another cause for them. I don't know who the them are. Al pidarke hamishpat v'hagmul, according to the ways of justice and reward. V'hu ki hine gozer ha'shoifet ha'elyon, so the highest judge decreed, shemitayledes ma'aseh ha'odam atzmai, the result of a person's actions itself, right? So the actions themselves, that there will be help from Hashem to lighten for him the achievement of perfection. So some people will achieve perfection easier than others, right? Okay, so and some people will be saved from stumbling blocks. As it says in the pasuk, Raglei Chasidav Yishmor, the feet of his saintly ones Hashem guards, right? So that sounds like, again, so it sounds like if a person has been doing well, he started out doing well, so Hashem says, okay, this guy's on the right track. I don't have to stumble him anymore. Let him get, he gets the wind beneath his wings. He gets a little back wind to help him go along. V'ulam v'adai, of course, certainly, shigam b'zeh madregas yesh. We have many different levels in this idea. Ki yimotzei echad, because you can find one person, sheshuras hadin, that the measure of justice, titin kifimasav shikvaroso, that is given according to the deeds that he already did, sheyazreu haboris baruch ezer me'at, that Hashem will help him, and the Creator, he calls him the Creator over here, the Creator will help him just a little bit. There may be another person, that Hashem will help him a bigger help. And Hashem will lighten for him, make it easy for him to achieve perfection very much. And another person, and there'll be another person who will get even greater help. Right?
Yeah.
So just pick it up. I want to talk about it more as we read along. But so we're saying, at the end of the day, you have to achieve perfection. So it sounds like what perfection looks like. Perfection is perfection. We know what it looks like, right? Perfection is perfection. Let's give an example. Let's say kindness is an element of perfection, right? So we know what a kind person looks like, right? We know what a kind person looks like. Now, some people are more kind than others. Some people, it's easier to be kind when you're in a good mood, right? It's easier to be kind when you're in a good mood, rich. Or when you're rich, right? All right. When you didn't have to scream at your employee 5 minutes ago, and then somebody else comes for charity, it might be easier for you to say, I would love to give you charity right now, but you did scream at your employee 5 seconds ago because he messed up in a big way, and you're stressed out. And now this guy comes asking for charity, so right? So it's the same situation. Now, I did an act of right? I could have done an act of kindness. Let's say I did an act of kindness. That's an element of perfection. So we know what this perfection looks like, right? What I'm trying to say is that so at the end of the day, it's the result. In a certain sense, it's the result that matters. Did you do chesed at 8:28 p.m. on a Monday evening, whatever? Did you do chesed or not? That was your chance to do chesed. Did you do chesed? I did chesed. Okay. Did you do chesed because you were in a good mood and it happened? Did you do chesed because you had to overcome challenges, or you didn't do chesed because you were stressed out, right? So at the end of the day, what matters, it sounds like, what matters is the result, not so much the effort. What matters is the result.
Yeah, but we know that effort is definitely an important component.
Right, so I don't know how to say it, right? We understand that what he was saying before is that actions have to be matzimim. They have to internalize this perfection. It shouldn't be just an external thing, right? We're not talking about where a guy is,
Right,
is rolling in money. Some guy says, "Hey, can I have some? I need to pay my bills." And he's like, "Sure, here." And he feels good about himself, and this is like his, as we say, Schwitzer, like he wants to. That's not matzimim. That's not internalizing goodness, right? But if we're talking about he was, like I said, he was in a pretty good mood, or right, and then all of a sudden some guy came with charity, and he made him feel, and he got into it, and he was so inspired, and he was he felt like he was accomplishing chesed, and he really internalized it, right, under these very conducive conditions, right? So he achieved perfection, right? So it's the result that matters. Did you achieve perfection? Whether you had to overcome something is secondary. Sometimes you don't have to overcome something and still internalize it. Meaning it's not necessarily always adversity that creates goodness. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Meaning
it could be very.
Meaning, let's say you're teaching your kid, you're teaching him math, right? So you want him to, you're teaching him a problem, learning Gemara, right? So we have something called amelus b'Torah. If it comes too easy, we don't remember it, we don't internalize it. If something comes too easy, we don't internalize it. So it sounds like in that aspect that adversity is exactly the formula that's needed in order to help us to internalize these elements of perfection. That's true, but there are other ways to make this amelus the same effect of amelus without necessarily, I don't know how to say it, without necessarily the suffering of adversity. Meaning extreme joy, they say this way, but there's not only extreme joy, but certainly extreme joy, just like extreme suffering and adversity and overcoming it internalizes, so too extreme joy, because it's extreme emotional state, also internalizes within us these character traits. So if I'm learning and I'm having such an amazing time from learning, and I see a pshat and I'm like, wow, what an amazing pshat, right? So that's going to internalize within me, because I'm loving it, I'm enjoying it. This brings me pleasure. I have an extreme emotional connection to it. On the other hand, if I just read it like this, so it went in and went out, right? On the other hand, I couldn't understand it. What is it saying? I don't understand it. And I figured, and I worked on it, and I 10 times went over and over and over. I will also internalize it. So I could have two situations where I was working on something. In both cases, the point is I internalized something deeply into my soul. But one came through just an extreme love and pleasure and dancing and joy, and the other one came through doing it over and over and over and over and over until it stuck with me, right? In both cases, I achieved the end result, but one came easy, and the other one came
Sounds
hard.
to me that this was the choice of Adam.
No, what? That he wanted to the hard work. He wanted adversity, right? Could be. That's one of the.
Meaning, I don't know if that's what he wanted, but that's what he did. That's what he took.
That's what he ended
Because
up, right?
Hashem's plan was through a big joy.
Right. I mean, it's gonna. Right. Okay. Yeah. So let's see a little more. Okay. So. Fine. Because why am I saying what I'm saying? Why am I saying what I'm saying? Because otherwise, if it's not just about, if the end result itself is not significantly important, that if it's all about the effort, then Hashem's judgment would be, how could Hashem make it easier? When Hashem makes it easier for Avram to do something, then he's technically hurting him. So the whole purpose is, I'm going to give you a challenge course, and at the end of the challenge course, you're going to have a major reward, and then I make the challenge course easier, then you messed up the whole purpose of your creation. Right? So clearly, if this is what Hashem wants at some points that, since you jumped from hoop A, B, and C, so we'll make D easier for you. That only makes sense if the result is valuable. And then there are two ways to achieve the result. You can achieve it through a more positive way, you can achieve it through a more negative way. But if it's nothing, the result is insignificant, it's all about the process, and you messed up with the process, then what just happened? You right? So clearly it's not just about the process. It's also about the result. So there are times, I'm sure there are times where it's also about the process, but it's also about the result. So if the result is you achieved some kind of a quality, whether you achieved it through adversity or not, is secondary. And I think what we want for our kids, do we want them all to achieve things through adversity? No, we want them to achieve the end result. But we also understand that sometimes with a kid that never experiences adversity, then he doesn't have any life skills to be able to come out on top. So we have to plan a situation where we're looking for our kids to have success in their lives, right? But we're not gonna make their life miserable, because so we can train them to become, more resilient, right? So we want this. So obviously, there is a way to achieve success in more inkubatorski, whatever conditions. Okay, let's move on. So v'chein behepech. Now this is kind of, even though it's the same, but it's interesting. V'chein behepech, and the same applies in the opposite direction. Kvar yemot, say it's possible. We find misha kefi adin, that according to judgment, to justice, yeroy shelo yazru min shemaim, that we can find a person that they will not help him, they will not assist him alone. They let him be. Okay, you got A, you got B, you make the right choice. Let's see how you do. But we're not going to make it difficult for you to achieve perfection. We're going to let you fight it out. We can find such. There exists such a person. There exists another person, whose justice, whose judgment, will come out, that they will increase for him, those things that will prevent him, right? And he will require a great strength, and a lot of toil, until he will achieve this perfection. And then there could be somebody else, a Rasha Gomer, and that's a Rasha Gomer, a complete Rasha. She is Sotmo Befonov, called Darkei Hatikun V'Yitchi, that will close for him all avenues of fixing himself. V'Yitchi, and he will be discarded, he will be pushed off in his evilness, right? Meaning at some point, when a person achieves a certain amount of evilness, then they do not give him the opportunity to resuscitate himself, to get back to on track. That's it, he's closed off. Right? So again, the point is that all of this is dependent on meaning the way I see it is, let's say again, you and your wife, you messed up, right? You messed up. Now you're coming back and you say, I'm sorry, honey, and I'm sorry, right? What is she gonna do? Is she gonna say, okay, fine, I forgive you? Or she's gonna say, go away, I don't want to speak to you, right? Meaning she's going to want to make it hard for you to come back, right? Because you already messed up in a certain way, then she's going to, now it's her turn for you to force you to kind of win her love back. And you need to put in an extra effort and an extra effort and an extra effort to get there, right? So similarly here, if a person did a certain kind of averos, so now Hashem is not going to just say, okay, all right, now you want to come back? Sure, here we go. Everything's good. Everything's great. We pretend like nothing ever happened. No. Now you're going to have to catch up a little bit. It's your turn to make up the lost territory, the lost time. Good. Of course, in all these things, there are many particulars, very many. So therefore, we can find that it's possible that a person will merit that he will get hatzlocha, success in this world, and that success will help him in his service, so that will be easier for him, right? A person will have success and he will have the ability, he'll go to shul, he'll go to daven, he'll go learn Torah, because he has financial resources to do that, he's not stressed out, right? So to such a person, it's easier for him to do avodas Hashem. And he's not going to find many preventatives. nigzer olav kifi masav hafsedim. On the other hand, it's possible that if a person, according to his deeds, will be decreed hafsedim, will be inefficiencies, insufficiencies, v'tzoros, and many troubles. Sheyamdu kachoyma, they will stand like a wall before him. Vayafsiku beinoyu veina shleimus, and they will be like a preventative between him and mechitza, right? The hefsek between him and perfection. Achi yistorich lo yoiser omal, that he will require much toil, v'yoiser torich, and a lot of effort, live koya esa mechitza, to break through this mechitza. Uli sametz, and to become strong, and kol tirdoisov, despite all of his toil, liyois masikas shleimus al kalponim, to achieve this shleimus in no matter what, right? So this is what we were speaking, is that there are some people who it seems like they're doing the right thing, they're on the right path, and it's just not going, and it's not going, and they just have to like exert an extra effort until they really break through that mechitza. Could be once they break through the mechitza, and then again things go smoothly because you broke through this mechitza, just like with the wife. Eventually, you try again, and you try again, and you try again, and then things get back to normal, and then you go. Now you're in a loving flow. But of course the opposite is for a wicked person. It's possible that they will decree for him successes, but those successes will do the opposite. Just like for a tzaddik, the successes enable him to do avodas Hashem. For Rasha, his successes liftoyach lefonav psacha avdan, they open for him the door of destruction, that through which he will be pushed away. On the other hand, for him there may be tzaros. So for a tzaddik, the tzaros prevented him from achieving perfection easier. For a rasha, the tzaros will prevent him to prevent him from the evil that he wants to do. Right? He wants to go and have a party with some lady, right? But he just his business just fell through and he lost his money, and now the lady is out, and so he feels bad about that. But Hashem prevented him; He saved him from this avera. So again, even though he's a rasha, this was his third lady that he was after, perhaps, but for some reason he had schus that Hashem prevented him. Shehoya b'dai says that he had in mind to do.
Shouldn't that count as? It's not good for us, but it's like when we say, when you go try to do something good and it doesn't work out, a lot of times it still counts as if you did it.
Right. It's right. It's true. We usually say that for the positive,
correct,
not for the negative. But for a rasha, for certain cases, we do say for the positive. So I don't know all of the cheshbon, and of course, as if you did it, and you actually did it, it's also not the same.
Because when you do something, you actually do something. Right. It has a different effect on you.
Right. There's a different effect on you, on the world, right, on everything. Right. Exactly. So v'zeh yikra k'sheyeda what?
Stays in your memories.
Right.
As opposed to not doing.
V'zeh yikra, and that occurs k'sheyeda hamanhig ha'elyon. This occurs when again he calls Hashem now hamanhig ha'elyon, the highest guide, the highest driver. She'ein royu le'oisa haresha she'yose, that it's not proper for this evil to have occurred, mitama, for whatever reason. So it might not be about him, right? It might not be about him, but it's just this thing is not meant to be. So he's prevented from making it happen. This is what David was praying. This is interesting. You could have. Let's see the verse. Al titan Hashem me avaye. Hashem do not give to me'avaye Rasha, to the, I don't know how to say, the avay means like wants and desires harasha of a wicked. Zmamoy, his plan al tafek, do not fulfill. Right? So, simply speaking, when David says Hashem, prevent these evil people for their evil to come out, you assume he's not praying on behalf of the evil people. You assume, I want them to fail, right? Don't let their evil plans come out, because their evil plans are against me, usually, right? Usually David, right? that's not how he's learning the pasuk. He's saying David is praying for those evil people that Hashem should prevent them from having evil. And I think it's because, I don't know if he's necessarily praying for the evil people themselves, but every evil that occurs in the world is a certain chil Hashem, right? If we're looking again at the master plan, that Hashem wants goodness to come out, perfection to come out, and now as a result of these evil people, imperfection comes out into the world. So a true Eved Hashem feels terrible that such a thing should occur. So he prays that they should be prevented. We don't care how. He just doesn't want this evil to happen. He wants it to be stopped. If not through their tshuva, let Hashem prevent it some other way, right? Okay. Okay. Let's just read a little more. What time is it?
It's 30 minutes.
30 minutes is not much.
11.
Let's finish this paragraph and then we'll go. Okay. But Amnam, however, just because this is the same letter, we only did one letter today. But Amnam hine hu yizbarach shmoi oise kol lehenyonim ha'ele b'chachmasoi haniflo. All of these things are accomplished through Hashem's infinite wisdom. Hakol kifi mashiroyi l'toivas klal b'ryosav. Everything is calculated according to what is good for the general populace. K'moshe zacharnu. V'hu dan es habriyas b'chol matzevehem. And he judges all creations according to their stature. Kifi mashehem be'emes, what they are in truth. Perush. What does that mean? Kihine eina doime mishu b'matzev harevach. Of course, it's not similar. Somebody who's in a state of revach, what's the word? Not goodness, prosperity, right? As a state of prosperity, umisrashel b'vaydosa, and then despite being in a state of prosperity, he's lazy in his service. Lemishu b'matzev hadoichek, in comparison to somebody who's in a state of distress, v'nitrad b'lachatzoy, and he is pushed away, v'lo yashlim eschuka, is not able to achieve what he is supposed to achieve. Right, so you have two people, Avram and Reuven and Shimon, right? Reuven is in a state of prosperity and is just too lazy to go to shul. And you have Shimon, he's in a state of stress and he's too stressed out and he was prevented from going to shul. Right? So who's going to be judged more harshly? Obviously, Reuven, right? Of course, their judgment is not going to be the same. Every person is judged according to what they are in truth. If a person did it by mistake, if a person did it intentionally, if he was by forced, right? If he did it with his will. Hashem knows all the truth of all things. And he judges them to their truth. Okay, the next is a continuation, but we're going to stop here. Right. So now he's going to go into a little bit into, because it doesn't only start by me and my actions now. You're going to say, well, listen, the kids of this, if you grew up in a family of Rabbonim and this and that, so it's easier for you to do certain mitzvahs because you grew up in that environment. Or if you grew up in a wealthy environment, so you were inherited wealth. It wasn't because you accomplished anything; you were inherited wealth, right? So technically, just by our birth, we are already set in some level closer or farther away from perfection. Looks, wisdom, the things that we inherit, those things are not us. But at the same time, they make it easier for us or make it harder for us, depending on what we received from the previous generation. So clearly there's more to it than just like right. Okay.